All right, Lloyd, welcome to your show, Why Wells Fail. Lloyd Brown, welcome to the stage.
Thank you, Steve. How's it going?
It's excellent. It's kind of warmed up now. We got, I don't have to wear my your long handles.
There you go.
Yeah, so back to walking around in T-shirts and stuff. How about you?
You know, the same thing, enjoying this unbelievably beautiful day, and glad it's warming up because it sure is hard to work in the cold for our team. So I'm glad we're seeing some warm temperatures, and I'm feeling sorry for Charlotte, where my daughter lives. They had all-time record snow out there. So good news is they're burning a lot of natural gas out there. So
Great segue. So these wells are out there producing, they're making natural gas. Man, I wish there was a way we could get more natural gas out of this well. Well, you're in the right place, huh?
Absolutely.
So today we're going to talk about Beyond Conformity, the future of completion philosophy. And why is this an important topic?
It's a real important topic because there's, the compounding of learning, and we're seeing the rate of learning happening really, really quick. But you have early adopters, and then you have followers, right? And the followers are cautious, and statistics say 80% of us are cautious. But when there's evidence, and it's very strong evidence, there's still belief in something that's been, even though it's been validated, it's just, we want to hang on to different beliefs. And there's a real challenge with, we've always done it this way. We know what we're going to get. And, that's really the definition of insanity, is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. And I read an article this last week. It's an unbelievable article by a company named Kimmeridge that's talking about the amount of resource that we have left in North America and the declining yields per well. And a lot of it is saying, hey, we've drilled all the good geology. The ability to get this resource out is diminishing. Well, when we look at our technology, we take rock that technically is not as good, and we make it perform as good as the best rock in any of the basins. And so again, because of that, there's a paradigm that you're going to get this out of a well, when we're like, no, you're going to be able to get 140 or 150% of this number if you go through the process and you understand the geology. And so that's why this is such an important conversation that we're having today, Steve.
Yeah. So, when you're talking, I'm just thinking about before AI. Well, just before maybe like 3 months ago, I'm using AI and my team uses AI, but the expectations of what we can accomplish with AI now is totally different. And it's like it's an expectation that I didn't have several months ago. And so same thing with you. When folks meet you, they realize, wow, we can have an expectation that we can get way more out of this asset than we could before.
Well, we have tools, and I'm going to hold one up. I don't know if people can see that in the camera.
That's a calculator.
Yeah, it's an HP 12C. And this calculator in the 80s transformed financial calculations in the rate that we could do them. Well, if you take what we did and this HP 12C, by the way, is still one of the single best tools. I've got it in the case because this one's kind of special. But it's a tool that continues to run calculations that are based on knowns. They're based on constants and the mathematical formulas. Well, we have a new calculator, and our calculator helps us understand why wells fail, because it helps us model or calculate 242 different variations of calculations that let us understand what's going to happen to the geology when it goes into the disruption of fracking. But if we want to go and really not understand it, we want to utilize and this to conform to the industry standard testing, which is leading us to an industry of diminishing returns. Why would you want to continue to do something when we've got all the surface efficiency that we can possibly have? We have to get more from the resource. And by the way, we have the ability to give more, get more of the resource, but also reduce the overall carbon footprint as we're doing that. And so it's, that's what, pull up your little graphic. I want us to talk about that. That's pretty cool.
Well, so sharing a graphic for those of you that are listening. And speaking of AI, we kind of took the outline of today's discussion and popped it in here. Real quick before we dive into this, Lloyd, what you just described, in a story, you have this hero and then you have this villain, and then you have this, what's at risk. If the hero doesn't accomplish what they need to do, this won't happen. Something's at risk. Someone will die, or the earthquake's going to go off and no one will know. And right. And so you talked about what's at risk is a whole lot of resources don't get optimized and extracted.
Yeah, absolutely. We've, the cost of creating the assets at the surface is a fixed cost, and it's an increasing cost. Tariffs have had an impact on that. There's been different impacts, and those are, and the operational efficiencies. We've done everything we can to get to where we're running a frac crew 23 hours out of 24 hours in a day. I mean, but what we've not done as an industry is focused on and understanding the resource. And I want to say that there has been a lot of work that has been done, but just like we couldn't see it all. And now that we can see it, we can't unsee it. Now that we understand it, it's becoming more and more intuitive understanding. And that's what our job is. And Why Wells Fail is to help that bridge that gap. And, the mindset is we can't get any better, or the tests that we have, the protocols that we have, the processes that we have are good because that's what I've learned. And these people, there's a lot of experts that still have a tough time with what we're doing. And then there's a lot of experts that look at it and go, God, it's so intuitive. How did we miss it? How did we not see this? And so, I think when you talk about complacency also can be called being stubborn and guilty, right? I think we all have our beliefs, and sometimes those beliefs are that it's not bad to be challenged in your beliefs. It's either going to lead you to a higher level of and clarity, as your title says here, clarity of conviction. But what is the cost of complacency? What is the cost of thinking that we are as good as we can be? The other day, I had somebody say to me, "You need to be more realistic, Lloyd." And I struggled with that. And I'm like, I really don't think that that's what I'm called to do in my role as a visionary. Realistic is what, there's a guy named Kelly McGee, and I don't know if he ever watches this, but shout out to Kelly. I used to love him because he'd always go, you think you can, or you think you can't. You're right. And that is the cost of complacency. And where you have mindset over technology or mindset over learning, I think really, as we discern the graphics that you and your team have created for today, as we go through that, it's really understanding what the real cost is. And next week, we're going to have some graphics of showing our performance and what that actually, the real dollars that are created by investing in the right process and technology versus a commodity or a standardized solution that is safe. That is, it's what everybody else is doing, so I can't get run off. But, there's another thing we need to think about. There's another consolidation today that was announced. And as the industry moves forward, again, the scale of this business is going to be a game changer as far as getting companies the additional leverage that they're looking for. We need people, we need companies that are going to challenge the status quo to give us the results that we need as an industry, as a country, ultimately as a world that runs on energy and is not getting the demand for it's not going down. Mm-mm. Somebody goes, well, what do you think about solar and wind? And I'm like, bring it on. Let's use them all. Let's just make sure that we're not, we all of them have places that they can work, but you have to have something that when you turn it on, it's there. And today that's energy from hydrocarbon and from nuclear. Those are the two most prolific, dependable resources. Hydroelectric to some degree, but that's where we are. We got to have an understanding, and our job is to help transition to conviction. The conviction of telling and understanding what the rock wants and then giving it what it wants so we get what we want. And that's why you and I are doing this. I'm convicted.
Your challenge, you got something great. You were talking about people learn a new thing and they have a hard time accepting it. Down here on this well that's all locked up, it's isn't that funny? It's got a water well, not an oil well. That's kind of funny there, but inherited habits.
But you want to know what? That's actually what these wells ultimately become. They end up becoming just water wells, because when you have a well that it stays in disruption, the geology collapses and the mobility of the hydrocarbon goes away. But water is 3 moles. It's 2 hydrogen and an oxygen, and it's small. It's going to continue to come out, kind of like methane and ethane, and the smaller gases are going to come out. But you're going to have a water well that makes gas, a little bit of gas. And what we're saying is no, let's make an oil well that's an oil well for a lot longer. That's given us the recoverable resource that is in that rock, that we know that it's there. Let's not make a water well that you got to worry about plugging and abandon in the future. And what do you do with, how do you make it economical when it's making that much water without a recoverable resource?
Yeah. So by changing the mindset and then implementing this process, the Pathfinder process, you can avoid this, your industry standard trap, which is, I thought it was kind of cool. It made a trap there, bear trap, but it's locking you into a state that is been before, but you can't move on into the new future where you can have bigger expectations of this asset, of this investment.
That's right.
So with this path to conviction, walk us through this right here prior to
Well,
yeah.
first is I love Stephen R. Covey when he in the 7 Habits seek to understand then to be understood. Our role is to help people understand what's going on with their rock, with their resource, with their investment. Um, you know, our our internal motto is help our customers make more money through innovation, and that's part of this path to conviction is to ask great questions, do the research, and then go to the ability to provide the knowledge. And the beautiful part about having a process patent, we now have legal validation in the world that our process has been validated by the brightest minds and said that it is novel, it's unique, and it is therefore our intellectual property. And that's another pathway to conviction. You've had, you've had it tested and it's passed the test. And as we next week are going to show you economic returns that we're gaining understanding utilizing machine learning and going back and doing analytics over the last 10 to 12 years, it is irrefutable the value that this process brings.
So that's helping you change the mindset in this industry.
That's correct. And challenge the inherited habits. That's one of the things. And one of the great questions is why do you use the concentration of chemistries that you use? And multiple times I've had, well, that's what so-and-so told us to do. Okay, why? Well, that's just what they do, that we trust them and that's what they told us to use. What if that's the wrong product and or the wrong concentration that you're using? Well, how do you know that? So that's part of the challenging that we have to do and helping people go from this, I love what you put down here, following to knowing. Because it's that really, it's dangerous. It's risky. That's the most risky thing you can do.
It's the most comfortable.
Well, what's the old saying? When you find yourself in comfort, hard times are following.
There's a lot of risk though, Lloyd. It's like, in this organization, they got multiple decision makers. It's dark down that hole, right? And then you guys are coming along and saying, trust us, do it different. And there's a lot at risk. There's reputations to be ruined if they choose you and this doesn't work, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you understand.
Yeah, but what's the name of our podcast right here? Why?
Why Will's
our role, Steve, is to help people understand the why they need to make the change. We need to be able to equip them with the knowledge, the understanding that leads to a conviction, that leads to the ability to make changes that will last. We're talking about generational change for our industry. And what's going to happen is if you're in our industry within the next 10 years, if you want to stay in this industry and you want to be innovative, you're going to have to go overseas where they haven't attacked this resource yet, known as unconventional geology.
Say that again.
The rest of the world has a lot of unconventional geology. North America is the most developed of the unconventionals in the world. But this same geology is in every oil producing region, South America, Australia, New Zealand, the Middle East, Europe. This exists, but they're not taking our technology yet and applying it at the same scale that we are, but that's coming. So for us to be competitive, because again, they've got really good rock in other parts of the world, for us and our industry to stay strong here in the US, we've got to continue to innovate and develop and squeeze the most out of our resource that we possibly can.
Well said. To be competitive, we need to look at this resource and in a different way, because otherwise you got to take a company and go overseas.
You know, there's so many songs that I didn't appreciate her till she was gone. Well, that's kind of how we're going to be about this resource if we don't start honoring it by doing the work to get the most out of it.
Yeah. When we look at those statistics next week, one of the questions goes into my head is like, how many? I mean, all the wells before this were, in theory, not optimized.
Not all of them,
right?
There's some of them in our past that we've learned that we were doing some things really well, and even though we're better today than we were then, we were still doing really good work. And that's what we're going to show is that, and we're going to be showing a couple of thousand well data sets that when you look at it, it's irrefutable. It's going to be fun.
Exciting time to be refined. So Lloyd, someone's been listening and they're like, I've listened to this Lloyd several times, and we need to reach out and talk to him. What's the best way to go about this?
Well, our new website, refinecompletions.com. We just rolled it out, everybody, and golly, I'm so proud of it. And there's multiple pathways that you can not only be informed and of what we're talking about here, but the easy button that you click and it takes it right to a place that you can reach out. You can reach out to me at Refine C Lloyd B, and then Lloyd.brown@refinecompletions.com. So I'd love to hear from folks.
Yeah, keep listening. We're on here every week at the same time, and you're learning a lot of things. A lot of people are we're getting good feedback and exciting things for this industry. Why wells fail, figure out how to make your well sail, right?
That's right.
All right, Lloyd, good job. We'll see you next week, and that's a wrap.